This hunt is one that's been on my list for many years. It combines so many things that are important and interesting to me. Hunting to me has always been about who I spend time with and also the history and stories of the landscape where the hunt unfolds. In this case, the history and landscape stories that fascinate me are about the indigenous people, the Apache people, and the supposedly extinct subspecies of elk, the Merriam's elk.
It's gonna take a lot of looking.
You kind of got to have a strategy and an idea of how you're going to attack that. For me, I know I'm going to be hunting sanctuary areas. Well, I get asked the question, what's a sanctuary? What's it look like? And if you walk up there and you say, boy, that doesn't look like a fun place to pack an elk out of, you found a sanctuary. There's a series of reservations that are home to the Apache people. These reservations are sovereign nations representing the modern-day remnants of what old maps called Apacheria. There are 8 game management units in Arizona that border the reservations most known for elk hunting. Those 2 reservations would be the White Mountain and the San Carlos reservations. These reservations have some of the finest elk hunting in North America, a testament to the management programs they've instituted. Now, one tactic that a lot of people use for elk hunting in these hunting districts that are adjacent to the reservations is to hunt near the boundary in hopes one of those big bulls will cross over to where they can legally be hunted. Most hunters experienced with these areas have warned me that hunting the boundaries is a good tactic in archery and early rifle seasons, but it is an equally poor tactic in these late rifle seasons like Matthew and I are hunting. Well, whether a good tactic or not, we're here to see for ourselves. For now, I'm off scouting before Matthew and Scott get here, and hopefully, I'm going to locate one of these elk before opening morning. When you hunt Arizona, you always got to think about water, right? Arizona and Nevada, 2 of the most arid states in the country. Arizona gets a monsoon cycle that starts in July, August, even into September. And that's when they get a huge part of their moisture, and then they get some more moisture again with winter rains if they're lucky. A few elkies in this water hole. Boy, that had to have been a big bull that was rubbing that tree this fall. Whew. Hopefully we find the guy that was doing that. I think he's a great big one, as my buddy Jerry Pritchard would say. Woofda. All the water holes that we looked at have elk coming into them, so we know there are elk around, obviously. And my theory that they're using these sanctuaries and they'll come up to water and come up to feed based on the tracks and their sign, looks like there's a good possibility that that holds true. One thing about Arizona, a lot of people think of Phoenix or Tucson when they think of Arizona, right? Desert and cactus and saguaro, but you get up here on what's called the Mogollon Rim. It's like what you see right here, Ponderosa. The elevations are over 7,000 feet. The temperatures are a lot cooler. I really get excited about these hunts because every morning you wake up, you could stumble into that bull that you've dreamed of. Gotta go find one for tomorrow, folks. A large part of my excitement for this hunt is that I'm sharing time with Matthew, my old buddy Scott, and 2 of our great crew members, Jace and Kyler. I get to stay here for the entire season, along with Jace. Though Scott and Kyler and Matthew, they have obligations that is going to cut their trip short by a day or 2.
I think that there's way more roads here than I ever expected. I guess it helps me eliminate more country. I'm looking for roads, hunting camps where the hunting pressure is going to come from, and places I think will be less disturbed when the shooting starts.
Well, 3 cows ain't gonna cut it.
Nope. Good viewing spot though.
Yeah.
Finding any?
Nope. You?
I peeked over the other side and didn't see anything either.
A scouting day, I always say, is invaluable because I came down here with probably almost 80 waypoints. And that day and a half of scouting, I probably crossed off 20 of them. Well, that's a lot of place where I'm not going to waste any time. I wish I would have had a second day to scout, but I didn't. So the first day of hunting becomes kind of a scouting day. We better tighten up the boots. We got like 400-yard walk to our glassing knob out there. But based on what it looks like here, I don't think our visibility is more than about 200 yards. Oh well. This is our glassing spot for the next 7 days. Or at least 3 hours. These late hunts in Arizona are tough hunts. They're late rifle hunts. They usually start the week after Thanksgiving. They give away a lot of tags. And I know there's gonna be a lot of hunting pressure. Usually the first 3 or 4 days, it's gonna be really intense hunting pressure, and then it's just gonna be fall off the map. Where'd everybody go?
Well, been here for, what, 3 hours now?
At least.
I've seen a few deer, but no elk. So I like this spot and I think we should come back, but I think for right now we should probably try to find a different spot and see what else is out here.
Yeah, I'd like to come back here at least tomorrow morning and the next morning. And if we do 3 mornings here and we don't see anything,
probably should stop looking there.
3rd strike and it's out. In the evening, there was this little canyon that I knew of that we'd walked in on the scouting day. And on that scouting day, we'd bumped a spike and some cows.
So we're gonna walk this, and we might pop out here. You guys might see us right there.
Okay.
And then we might just walk back and meet you guys on the road at dark.
Okay.
Well, they're heading up to where we saw a spike and some cows the other day. And we also saw another group of cows. And we're gonna walk in this way. Kyler, one of the camera guys, and I go to the north, make this big loop around the rim of the canyon. And to the south, on the south rim, Matthew will go with Scott and Jace, and that was the strategy. Matthew and I both have tags. Since Matthew is gonna miss the last 2 days of the hunt, I'll give him the first crack at whatever chance might arise. And since I've already had a really good season, it's gonna take something pretty special for me to fill my tag.
So my dad and Kyler are on the far end of this, or far side of this ridge. And we thought we'd be able to see them, but the snow is a little stronger than we thought it was gonna be. But we have a pretty good little ravine right here that we're looking into.
Crazy, there's a snow cloud right here. And there's no clouds over there. We're right on the edge of where all the snow is at. In addition to exploring the lands of Apacheria, I'm also here to investigate the stories you hear about Merriam's elk, a subspecies claimed to be extinct by the experts. Well, I'm not an expert, but I'm intrigued by how many stories of how the Merriam's elk was never extirpated from Apacheria. They sure occupied a large amount of rugged terrain, covering the mountains from Old Mexico to New Mexico, here in Arizona, and even out to West Texas. The Merriam's elk was claimed to be the largest of all the elk subspecies. Well, I believe that. The largest elk I ever shot at, and unfortunately I missed, wasn't too far from here. Ugh, that still pains me. Yet, as I recount the memory of that big bull quartering away from me as I'm messing to get my camera focused, all I can think of is that maybe the Merriam's elk could still exist here in Arizona. Did a few make it through the surge of settlers? Now, I know when I say that, some of you think I'm off my rock. But if you came here and you saw some of these Arizona elk, you'd also entertain these stories about Merriam's elk still walking around here.
There's a bull staring at us. He's pulled up the binoculars and he was right in the center.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
It'd be hard for me to say no. But
Looks tasty, right?
I'm pretty good at saying yes. Yeah, he'd be delicious.
Will you be a shooter if he was on our side?
If he was right there, based on what we've seen so far, I'd have to consider it pretty hard.
Matthew, Scott and Jace right over there across from us.
It's sunset. We've got half an hour shooting light, but nothing is within range. Only one we've seen here is this one over on the hill over there, and it's outside the unit boundary by about 400 yards, so that doesn't do us much good. Looked at him a little closer, and he's at least a 7x6. He has a very, very small 7th point on the other side. I'm not even sure if it would count, but he's really cool. He's got a lot of mass. His 3rd points just go kind of straight out to the side, which is really cool. We're going to keep looking and see what happens.
Apacheria has always been the historic home of the Apache people, once including parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and even Old Mexico. The history of this place is rich, and it's definitely tragic, depending on whose shoes you stand in. The land was home of the Apache people for thousands of years. When Spain landed in what is now Old Mexico in 1519, they claimed vast territory for the Spanish crown, including these lands occupied by the Apache people. Mexico was granted independence from Spain in 1821, and they assumed Spain's claim to these lands. And then there was this 2-year war between Mexico and America called the Mexican-American War that ended in 1848. Through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and about $15 million of cash, Mexico ceded to the United States the lands shown on Mexican maps as Apacheria. I find it strange that throughout these 300 years of ownership claims by outsiders, nobody really asked the Apache people for their input. And I'm pretty sure the Apache people didn't get any of that $15 million the United States paid to Mexico for these lands.
We're back where we saw the one last night. He was right over there across the unit boundary. And he's not there this morning, so plan is to not stay here too long today if we don't see anything. Cow. Well, right here at 30 yards. Boundary's down there about half mile. We parked up here and I walked up to this lip where I could glass. There's a cow elk standing there looking at me at about 25 yards. I can see their trail right here. They were working their way up out of here.
A couple raghorns. One is for sure a little bull, and the other one, all you can see is he's kind of thrashing his head around. You can see tines from 2 miles away, which is a good sign, I think.
If they were that far away, but just a 30-degree vector.
we'd be shouldering it back, putting it in swift and fast.
Something you got to think about when you're using borders and boundaries for your sanctuary. You might hunt right near that border because, well, there's not a lot of hunting pressure over on the private, so the elk hang around there. You're also counting on a little bit of hunting pressure on the private to move them over. Well, say you're using a state boundary or a national park boundary or something, there is no hunting pressure there. So it's not necessarily going to move them back over, even though it is a great sanctuary.
What do you say we go over on that big ridge, glass way out there for this last little bit of dark?
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we've pretty much stomped this place into the mud.
Yeah, not seeing much here.
Yeah.
And so again, we split up, tried our best to figure out, all right, you go this way, I go that way. We're seeing some cows and, you know, it's like, dang, where are the bulls?
Hey, Matthew.
Yeah.
Why don't you, I haven't zoomed in on them, but the scope's right on them. They're in a bunch of yellow grass. I don't know if that matched their group.
We found more elk that are not in the unit. They all are just over the unit boundary. This is a bull with a bunch of cows. They'd have to come probably a mile plus this direction to get into the correct unit. Yeah.
So loud.
Well, that one's injured.
That is a big angry sound. No. 300 yards away. So had it been a bull, we actually would have gotten a shot. That's even in the unit. But that's the way it goes.
Stuff is just so hard to see through. All I've seen is that hunter and 4 horses out there.
One of the things that has surprised me are the amount of feral horses here.
I'm looking at 2 horses right now. One of them's really tan colored up
That's one of them.
Oh, okay.
It was so rare when I was going to college here. I don't know that I ever saw a feral horse. And I was up here every weekend. And now it's like every corner you go around on one of these main Forest Service roads, oh, there's another group of them. There's another group of them. And they are doing immense damage to the landscape, and their competition with native species for forage is just really an impairment to how productive these landscapes could be.
Well, what do you think of this plan?
I mean, it seemed like a good plan, but we got here and our spot was taken and everything was grown up more than we thought it was, so sometimes your plans don't work out.
Tomorrow, I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm inclined to go to another spot, not this far east, where you can just glass forever. And pretty soon we're not gonna have much left on our map.
The evening hunt so far, by this time, are pretty unproductive. So day 4, we go into this canyon. Matthew looks way, way far away, and he's like, I see some elk over there.
Group of elk. I think one of them's a bull. One spike, another spike. More of them, I can't tell what they are though. I mean, if Matthew wants to shoot a spike, that's up to him, but I'm not shooting a spike. I came here to find a Merriam's elk.
The Merriam's elk is one of the many species given the name Merriam's in recognition of C. Hart Merriam. He was known as the father of mammalogy, though he's also known for his work on birds. Merriam was asked by President Theodore Roosevelt to head up a new federal agency at the time, which today we call the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And though we have Merriam's elk the Merriam's turkey, the Merriam's chipmunk, and a host of other species that bear his name, Merriam gave credit to the indigenous people for helping him identify and catalog the many western species that occupied the lands of Apacheria and California. Sunset's on day 4. And so it's kind of a bummer that Scott had to leave on day 4, because I feel like we were starting to eliminate more places of where they aren't. And now I know that this is Matthew's last day. I gotta look harder. I have to find a bull. There's gotta be a bull here somewhere. We're down on one of the ridges where we'd been on a couple days earlier. I look out there and I can see a bull. I mean, he's closer, but he's still over the boundary, right? Yep. And sure enough, we get to look and there's 3 of them.
Yeah, the one you were looking at's up in the trees in the top right.
Okay, so there's 3 of them.
Yep.
And you could see really, really nice antlers on a couple of these. And I told Matthew, I said, you know what? If they go through that little saddle and come up 400 or 500 yards, they're gonna be where we can shoot them. Ready?
Yeah.
Suppose they'll still be there.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Matthew seems pretty determined that he's gonna get his eye on these bulls somehow. And here comes Matthew running through the trees, and Jason's like, he must see something.
Spotter. Small one, but
On the ridge or in the...
That ridge over there?
Yeah.
They're maybe like a quarter of the way down.
We go over there, and sure enough, there are 4 bulls standing on this hillside over there.
They're 1,200 yards away.
Yeah, but you could cut that to about 200 yards real quick if you wanted.
You mean by driving to the ridge right there?
Yeah. And I could see him thinking about it because he loves wild game as much as I do.
Mountain lion.
What? A mountain lion?
It's
Oh,
crawling.
it's right
It's right there.
Wow, is it gonna go after one of those spikes, you suppose?
I don't know. It just passed like 50 yards from one of the cows, so.
Look at the spikes, boy, they're on high alert here. That is so crazy. In all my times in the hills, I've only 3 times seen mountain lions. 2 of them have been in Arizona. We stood there and watched all of that for probably 20, 25 minutes while all of a sudden it's like, we don't have any time. I hate to tell you this, Matthew, but you only got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah, well, at least we got to see a mountain lion at the end.
Yeah. I don't think either of us were that disappointed that Matthew didn't fill his tag on one of those spikes. Tomorrow I'm gonna find a spot and hopefully glass up a bull elk. Well, I'll give it my best for the next 2 days.
Okay.
Travel safe tomorrow.
Will do. We'll drag you out to Oregon for an elk hunt one of these times.
For me, the hunt takes a little bit different turn once Matthew leaves, just because it's no longer him and I. We're getting right on the unit boundary. We've seen a lot of bulls within a half mile of here. One of these nights, some of them are gonna walk this way, and it'll turn daylight, and there'll be one of those mature bulls standing there. Well, this morning I've seen 2 groups of cows, that's it. Bad sign. Every track is a horse track. Did not see a cow elk, a calf elk, or a bull elk.
I kind of knew what I was looking for, and I found it outside of the unit, right on the boundary. And I probably could have went to the other part of the unit and sat water and done what a lot of people do. It's very successful. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to come here and hunt the canyons, hunt the boundary, and look for a special elk.
Well, I guess the warnings I received were correct. Maybe I should have listened to those who warned me against hunting these boundaries, but the temptation was just too much. Yet even with this outcome, I don't think I'd change anything that we did. This hunt wasn't necessarily about tagging an elk, though it sure would have been nice. 7 mornings of doing this. And no big bull to show for it. Oh well. To me, this hunt was about exploring new places, trying to imagine the Merriam's elk that lived here for millennia, and researching the stories of the indigenous people, the Apache people who for thousands of years lived here in a sustainable manner and are thriving in this difficult and unforgiving terrain today. And most importantly, this hunt was another chance to spend more time with the people I care about. The crew, my buddy Scott, and Matthew. The most meaningful way I can spend time with those close to me is to do so with a tag in my pocket, my boots on the ground, and dreams in my head. To all who've played a part in this story, in my exploration of a new place, I have to give thanks. Thanks for the great time and the great memories. Oh, and I'm still open to that notion that there are a few Merriam's elk still haunting the canyons of Apacheria.